Let's start talking about application level acknowledgements and required subscriptions. The reliability QoS actually has a parameter that enables application level acknowledgement. This is known as an acknowledgement kind, and it can be set to one of three values: protocol, application auto, or application explicit acknowledgement mode. By default, it is the protocol acknowledgement mode. The protocol acknowledgement mode basically will automatically acknowledge data when it's been received and stored in the data reader's receive queue. What does that mean? So when the data writer sends data, it needs to know whether or not the data reader receives it. An ACK is going to be sent by the reliable protocol to tell the data reader, yes, it's received the data. This ACK under the protocol acknowledgement mode, is automatic, okay? And as soon as DDS receives the data and stores it into the queue, that data will be ACKed. If you set acknowledgement kind to application auto, then it's not automatically ACKed at that point. Instead, the ACK is delayed until a return loan is called on the data sample. Return loan is a data reader method that is called either explicitly or implicitly, but only after data was taken out of the receive queue or read from the receive queue. So when the user application sees the data, either takes the data or reads the data, and then at the end of that, a return loan is called to return the memory to DDS. At that point, an ACK is sent back to the data writer application. That's application auto acknowledgement mode. Application explicit is a mode in which the user logic will actually explicitly call a method called acknowledge sample. So in the data reader, there's a method called acknowledge sample, and your user logic will have to call this if you set application explicit. And when you call this, at that point, an ACK will be sent back to the data writer saying that, yes, we received the data. Now, how is this? How do these modes work, or what do they do? Well, with in a reliable connection, okay, data will be stored by the data writer, okay, until it's been acknowledged by all the reliable data readers that's been received. When you have reliability, keep all history, that data cannot be removed until it's been fully acknowledged by all reliable data readers. By default, with protocol acknowledgement mode, the data is ACKed when it's been received and stored in data reader queue. But just because it's been stored and received in the data reader queue doesn't mean the user application actually saw the data or has processed the data. It's possible the application crashes before the user code can actually get access to the data. So using this QoS, by setting application auto or application explicit, you're configuring the data writers to keep the data until it's been notified that data was processed by a data reader. Application entity name and required subscriptions. So this is configured using the availability QoS policy on the data writer and the entity name QoS policy on the data reader. So with the availability policy, you're looking at enabled required subscriptions. First, you have to enable this. Then you give it a set of what we call endpoint groups, and it could just be one. It could be multiple, which is really a list of required subscriptions by name. So basically, you want a list of applications that must receive that data. Okay, you can have multiple data readers with the same name. You can have different data readers with different names. Again, by default, this is false, so it's not actually turned on. But if you do enable it, you'll give at least one name, if not multiple names, so that what happens in this case is that DDS will keep the data, okay, until a named data reader has received, until all named data readers have received the data, has ACKed. And you usually use this with application acknowledgement so that the named data readers are explicitly ACKing that they've processed the data. And of course, the name of the data reader is set by the entity name specifically the role name parameter of an entity name QoS policy on a data reader.